Akwagine bully melu. Makadisha love and abaka me see daddy oh. Akwagine mere mama. Akwagine bully melu. Makadisha love and abaka me see daddy oh. I'm grateful, daddy I'm grateful, daddy I'm grateful. I did throw a salute oh. I'm grateful, daddy I'm grateful, daddy I'm grateful. I did throw a salute oh. Eba mi rababa, 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 eba mi rababa. Shana, you way to give me good loving every morning. Your message the pouring. I done searched round the whole world. There's no one else like you, only you.
Akwagine mere mama, akwagine bully melu. Makatis your love in the back and they see daddy oh. Akwagine mere mama, akwagine bully melu. Makatis your love in the back and they see daddy oh.
I'm grateful, daddy I'm grateful, daddy I'm grateful. I did throw a salute oh. I'm grateful, daddy I'm grateful, daddy I'm grateful. I did throw a salute oh. Eba mi rababa, 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 eba mi rababa.
Jesus is there, yeah. He there, Jesus is there, yeah. He there, yeah. Jesus he bless you, he bless you. Jesus he bless you, he bless you. Jesus is there, yeah. He there, yeah. Jesus is there, yeah. Hey, he there, yeah. Jesus he bless you, he bless you. I'm grateful, daddy I'm grateful, daddy I'm grateful. What if you a salute you? I'm grateful, daddy I'm grateful, so grateful. Yeah.
And that was Grateful by Lima Blaze and Moses Bliss. And before that, you heard Bad Bad by Happy. Now, there's a number of artists that I know or I'm a fan of, have listened to, been to see live. And both of these would be among that group. And especially Happy is worth looking up. And his Instagram is really fun because he does Afrobeat versions of really well-known songs. So if you ever want a little bit of light entertainment and a bit of a giggle, check out Happy's Instagram because he's forever trying out even classical pieces with an Afrobeat. So one of the things I really enjoy doing on the variety show is just celebrating creative individuals, whether they're singer-songwriters, making incredible music, or perhaps writing a book. There's various different ways that we express our creativity. And that is something to definitely celebrate. A little later on, I'm going to shortly be joined by Amadis from Amadis and the Ambassadors. Now, I met Amadis when I was just 19 and I had just arrived in London to start my very first job. I was already living independently, which might shock some of you, but I come from a Nordic culture where you're pretty much considered an adult at 18, including most people moving out if it's possible for them. Often to study, but it can be also to already work. So I hit London, and among the first people I got to know was Amadis. And my memory of him was him taking his guitar everywhere. So he'd take his guitar with him everywhere. And would be singing covers. So at that point, it was mostly covers that I would hear him sing. But later he began to also write his own songs. And Amadis sort of featured as a friend initially, then there was a little gap, then later I ended up actually marrying his best friend. So believe it or not, today's guest has actually been best man at my wedding. So I will, at some point, he doesn't know I've already told this to you guys. So at some point I might pull it into the interview, maybe at the end. Let's see how he responds. However, just as way of introduction, on his debut album, there's a really lovely track that is just pure funk. And I'm going to play that for you as a little intro. and that was Baba Funk by Amadis and the Ambassadors. So a little later in the show, I'll be doing an interview with Amadis and finding out the inspiration behind his music and his musical journey, which has taken him all across the world. So there'll be lots and lots of stories, I'm sure. Now, this past week for me has been absolutely filled with music, and more specifically, filled with awards ceremonies and awards events. So I have somehow managed to be involved in 2 music awards in 1 week. And yes, somehow I still managed to drag myself here to the studio today, because anybody who has ever been involved in organizing an event of that size and complexity will be able to relate to the fact that the first one certainly was weeks of work, and it was worth every minute, because it was just a beautiful thing to see lots and lots of music artists coming together, lots of people who appreciate their music, putting on a show with a whole variety of acts, and just seeing people really enjoy themselves. So that was a very satisfying thing. Unfortunately, because I was one of the organizers, I didn't actually get to see much of the show. But a bit later in the week, I was given the opportunity to also work for another big show, much bigger than the one that I was involved in. So the one I was involved with is called the Step Forward Awards, which celebrates all the best of the UK gospel and Christian music across all genres. So this was the second year that we did the Step Forward Awards. We're going to return again next year, bigger and better. And we're going to slightly more ambitiously next year do round tables. And round tables is the format that the Mobos takes, certainly for the VIP guests. And I was, just as I'd recovered from the Step Forward Awards, I was given the opportunity to also go and help out the Mobo Awards team in organising their event. And that was a much larger scale production. As you can imagine, it took place at the Wembley Oval Arena. And honestly, it was one of the most hectic things I've ever done in my life, but it was also great fun. And thankfully, my part of VIP hosting, as much as there unfortunately were a few issues along the way to ensure everybody gets seated at the right table, we got there in the end. The show was amazing. It was phenomenal. I don't think I've seen that complexity of production for a long time. There was amazing lighting. There were some real top artists performing. I'd never heard Craig David live before, but now I can say that I have. And many other big names as well. But there seems to be this one theme that happened at our awards show, and it also happened at the bigger one at the Mobos, where people don't turn up to pick up the award. So I thought it might be affecting us more because we're maybe a smaller audience, a little bit more niche in the awards and the people that we're awarding. But no, they had exactly the same issue at the Mobos, where quite a number of people were just not available to pick up their award. So they were either just celebrated on screen, or somebody else was picking it up on their behalf. So that just made me sort of wonder, why is that? Is it purely that people are so busy once they're established as artists that they're off touring, maybe in another country, maybe they're busy with some prior engagement? Or is it that there's something about picking up an award, having to go up there in front of an audience, acknowledge that, yes, I've been kind of celebrated in this way? Is there perhaps a bit of shyness, reticence around it? Or is it a case of just indifference, that I'm happy doing my thing and I've established myself and it doesn't matter so much who acknowledges it and how it's viewed? So those are just some of the things I've been thinking about this week, wondering what that's all about. What that is all about. So I'm going to play you another song by today's guest, and it is called Heritage. So here you go. was another song from Amadis and the Ambassadors, and we're going to hear a bit more from him a bit later in the show. So that was just to get you into the vibe, and that song was called Heritage. I think heritage is a big topic, and I think it's something to be valued, and I think it's quite an important part of knowing who we are, is to know our heritage, even if it's, like myself, a mixture of cultures. It's important to understand them, because then you understand like all the parts of you, and also the parts of you that are just totally unique. And I guess the beautiful thing is that when you have a mixed heritage, you can choose which parts of each culture to keep and which parts to maybe reject because you've got a bit more of a reference point. But another beautiful thing is I have really enjoyed living in London, my adult life, because I've met people from all over the world, friends from different cultural backgrounds. So even without having travelled as much as I would have liked, I've been able to really get an understanding of how people from different parts of the world, their customs, their culture, how they view things, how they do things, what's important, and even foods. That's maybe the most fun part to experiment with, is trying foods from different cultures. And it made me laugh the other week. I was about to start a detox and essentially not eat for a few days. And with my best friend, we were trying to figure out which restaurant to go to. This is in London, so you've got a choice of everything. And the list she sent me was really long. She said, do you fancy Chinese, Vietnamese, Thai, Turkish, Italian, Greek? The list just went on. We did end up in a very, very nice Turkish restaurant, only because what was the deciding factor in the end was where we could get the most meat. So that's why the Turkish won. But my plan is to certainly visit some of those other restaurants that I didn't get a chance to go to yet. And also the good thing is that she's a real foodie. And I think we all need to know somebody who's a real foodie, who goes and tries out various restaurants, because there's nothing worse than going out for a meal, paying good money, and then being really disappointed. I would say that is one of the biggest disappointments in my life, is if I make the effort to go out to eat somewhere, looking forward to a lovely evening, maybe with some friends, getting together, ordering food, and it's just not up to it. That is just a real thing for me. And I'm discovering as I get older, I'm getting fussier. So I really haven't got time for bad food. I just think life's too short now. So I have to make sure I eat well. That's become very, very important. You're listening to Feferity Radio with myself, Samantha, and this is the variety show where we talk about a variety of topics and also interview some very, very interesting guests. Today, we're going to have a singer-songwriter called Amadis, who has his own band called the Ambassadors, and they play. It's like a mixture of funk and reggae and soul, and you will be hearing more from Amadis and more of the music of his band a little later on. Now, Amadis is somebody who was drawn to music from a very young age. My earliest memories of meeting him were him always carrying his guitar with him everywhere and playing to friends in parks, whoever would be around. He would sing and play the guitar and entertain people. And another thing that I really believe in is that everything happens for a reason. So I think it was always kind of for a reason that I met Amadis already a long time ago when I first came to London. And even though there's been sometimes years of gaps where we haven't been in contact and life has taken us in very different directions, there's always been, this certain connection there. And I believe that a lot of people come into our lives for a reason. Sometimes they're there for good. They become good friends that are always part of our lives. Sometimes they're there for a period of time, a season. And certainly for myself, now that it's coming to the end of the year, it's getting to that time where I review everything, where I'm just looking at my life, I'm looking at my activities, the different projects I'm involved with, the different people I'm working with, my goals that I've set out earlier in the year, and just making a real evaluation. Where am I? Where have I gotten to? Who is in my life? Are those people there because they have a role to play, because I want them there, because they're valued? Or is there perhaps also a time to maybe leave some projects and maybe even some people behind in 2022, moving into 2023? Now, I used to think that you should never, ever reject anybody or in any way cut them out of your life. So I used to hold that belief quite strongly. But I've come to realize that that's not always good. It is sometimes good to set boundaries. If someone's behavior is consistently such that it's causing problems, it's causing stress, and they don't have an awareness or they don't care how they're making other people feel, I've now gotten to a point where I'm comfortable saying to people, for this and this reason, I can't have regular interaction with you any longer. And I would just like to celebrate a personal little boundary victory that I had this week, which was that I told 2 individuals that I no longer wanted them to be in regular contact or count them as friends. And it was a decision that was brewing for a while. There was a number of factors that I took into consideration. And one of them was simply the fact that I do not have a great deal of time. My time is very valuable. My time is precious. So if people are taking advantage in some way, shape or form of my time, of my kindness, of my generosity, and there is not a clear reason for us to be dealing with each other, I had to make some tough decisions. But it felt good. It felt good. I always try to be very clear with people what my reasoning is, and have it clearly thought through, and do it in a kind way. And I think that's really important. But it's also just asserting certain boundaries. And that's something I know personally I'm not always been very good at, because I have had very little chance to really develop that in my life. So that is an exciting thing. I'm stepping into a new year, new season, doing lots of consideration as to what are the priorities going into 2023. What would I like to see change? And I had a really lovely little video the other day. As a lot of listeners know, I do often talk about my faith. One of the most beautiful statements that I've heard in the last week was somebody that I met at one of these award shows. And there was just something really beautiful. So this was another musician, also actually a reggae musician. And I think I might play one of his tracks to you, because he has written an absolutely beautiful song as a tribute to his 22-year-old son who died from a unexpected brain tumor 2 years ago. So the artist is called John Connolly. He's a musician and a producer, and he produced a beautiful reggae song for his son who had passed away. And one of the things that I met John at a Christian event, and we had some conversation afterwards about him sharing about his music and also the story of his son. And then he also was quite intrigued by the fact that I call myself a supernatural Christian. Now, I use that term because I was directed, so Holy Spirit directed to use it, and every time I've checked since, it's always been the same, which is yes, continue to use it. But part of my, I guess you could call it like a spiritual awakening or growth process, has been increasingly being sensitive to the spiritual, the supernatural. And because that is such a big part of my life and I get so much guidance, it's become a real thing for me. Now, the thing that John said that really struck me, and this was really and truly on the back of what happened to his son. And he said that he lost religion and found God in the supernatural. So he lost religion and found God. And that is very much what's happened to me. So I can relate to you, John. I have also lost religion and found God. And I'm now going to play you John's song, because we're on a bit of a reggae vibe today. So I'm going to play you this song that he wrote to his son, who passed away at a very young age from a brain tumor.
Gone in the morning, my son's life was taken without any warning. Gone before his time, oh, it left the hole, the precious son of mine. Oh, what a beautiful soul. My son's alive, he's in the arms of Jah. Son's alive, he will live forever. He will live forever. Beautiful son, with beautiful Jah. Beautiful Jah. My son's alive, and he will live forever. Took him away, the ones he told me about on that day. Although I know he's in a better place, my heart breaks not to see his face. My son's alive, he's in the arms of Jah. My son's alive, he will live forever. He will live forever. Beautiful son, with beautiful Jah. Beautiful Jah. My son's alive, and he will live forever, ever and ever. You see, the angels came, took him away, the ones he told me about on that day. Although I know he's in a better place, my heart breaks not to see his face. My son's alive, he's in the arms of Jah. My son's alive, he will live forever. He will live forever. Beautiful son, with beautiful Jah. Beautiful Jah. My son's alive, and he will live forever, ever and ever. My son's alive, he's in the arms of Jah. ja, 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 ja. My son's alive. He's gonna live forever, ever and ever. Beautiful son, a beautiful Jaja. My son's alive, yes he's alive, and he will live forever and ever. My son's alive, he's in the arms of Jaja. Beautiful son, we're beautiful Jaja, Jaja, Jaja. My son's alive, my son's alive, my son's alive. He will live forever and ever and ever. Beautiful son, we're beautiful Jaja, Jaja.
Now that was Joshua's Song by John Connolly, a song that he wrote after losing his 22-year-old son through a heart attack because he had a brain tumor. And that was just 2.5 years ago that John went through this massive loss. And as a result, he wrote this beautiful song. And this song is for everyone that has lost someone. So sometimes out of those really, really tragic occurrences and painful losses, we can really forge something beautiful. And I think John's song there is a very, very good example of it. So I'm just sending lots and lots of love out to John. It was really lovely meeting you at the Step Forward Awards on Saturday. And I look forward to meeting you again. Hopefully before the next one in a year's time, but if not, this is a shout out to you. Thank you for writing such a beautiful song, and it's been a delight to have it play. Really, it's a delight to have my own show, the variety show here on Feferity Radio, so that I can get some very interesting artists on the show to interview and also play their music. And this afternoon, I am joined in the studio by Amadis Ferreira. I'm really tempted to call you Ferrero. Let me just switch that on.
Rocher.
Yes, I am very tempted to call you Ferrero Rocher.
Or Ferrari.
Or Ferrari. That's probably even better. Maybe the combination of chocolate and a car. Luxury car.
Luxury, isn't it? Luxury for the mouth, luxury for the back seat.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean.
So it's lovely to have you here in the studio.
Thank you for having me. Oh, do I need to be closer? There we go.
Yeah, if you can move slightly closer so that we hear you.
Sorry about that.
So, welcome to the Variety Show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
We celebrate the variety that we find in life. And really and truly, the show gets kind of put together very much depending on who I meet and what life brings.
Absolutely.
And yesterday was such a lovely day because I don't think I had seen you in person for over 10 years.
10 years, yeah, 10 years.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So Amadis is somebody who I met very early on when I first came to London, an unmentionable number of years ago.
Yes.
It's a while ago now. However, Amadis is on the show today because he has are you a full-time musician or part-time musician?
Yes, I have been a full-time musician for the last 4 or 5 years.
Brilliant. And you know, my earliest memories of you are that you always had your guitar with you.
Yes. It's true. Everywhere I went, on the plane, to the park, to the beach, everywhere, just always ready to play, you know.
That's exactly how I remember you.
Yeah.
And that's not really changed because you're
really.
very much a musician from the, crown of your head to the soles of your feet.
Absolutely. Fully fledged, independent, and doing it for the love, even though of course money is a part of our society, but I'm certainly not doing it for the money, but I'm doing it for the love of it. And and I think when you do it for the love, you can't stop.
Well, this is it. And I think it's something then that is lifelong.
Yeah.
This is
absolutely.
lifelong. This is I was looking at a promoter's page that puts on lots and lots of concerts, and they had familiar names that are big in the charts, and then they even had some dates next year for Cliff Richard.
Wow.
Now he's over 80.
Still going, yeah.
And I looked at those dates and they're at the end of 2023.
Right.
And I actually stopped to think and I thought, wow, he must be 82, 83 at least.
Yeah.
And he's still putting dates out there to tour and to do concerts in a year's time.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? It's crazy.
And I've got some friends that are a little bit older, have been rock musicians their whole life, still making music, still performing regularly.
Exactly.
So you're right. So I think you're in that category, Amadis. You're
Thank
right.
you. It's good to know that.
You're a lifer. You're a lifetime.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be going to about 120, then I'll probably stop.
That's a good age to aim to, because
Yeah.
we're living longer now.
That's right. Yeah, we are living longer. In fact, my great-grandfather on my African side, he did live until he was 120. which
You're
is quite crazy.
joking.
No, I'm not. But I guess life also there is a bit different. There's not so much processed food. People are working from the land, so there's probably less stress, and probably that helps people to have a longevity that is rare today. But I would say people that live outside of the cities probably live longer.
Probably. I think if you're growing your own food, living off the land, he would have had most likely organic food, what we would call organic, his
Exactly.
whole life.
Yes.
And, well, I thought I was doing quite well because my Finnish grandmother lived to just 2 months shy of 102.
Wow. See.
So there's longevity my side as well.
Where did she live? The
Finland
countryside.
and the
There
countryside.
you go.
And one thing about my grandparents is they always had beehives. So she had a lot of natural honey.
Yeah.
So that probably helped as well. Because
Golden nectar.
honey has some really good properties. And I, as a child, we used to go home from my grandmother's house with a bucket full
Wow.
of honey.
Yes. And it doesn't rot.
No, it doesn't go off. Haven't they found it in like the Egyptian tombs
Yeah.
thousands of years later and it's
Exactly.
still edible?
Yeah, and they even found some weed as well.
That's quite funny.
They found the natural herb of God.
So herbs and honey stand the test of time.
There you go. They were here before us. They'll be here after us.
Well, it's great to have you here on the show, Amadis. I'm going to mention your band, Amadis and the Ambassadors.
Yes.
So tell me more about your band. How did that come about?
Well, it's funny because I've always loved to play music and to play guitar, but I never actually saw myself as somebody who would write any music. And somehow life, as you know, takes you in paths that sometimes you can't imagine. And maybe you discover at some point that you were meant to follow a certain way. And I guess, I just playfully went into music venues, into open mic nights. I met people like Ed Sheeran and Amy Winehouse before they were famous. We would share some of the circuits around London, and somehow I found myself just writing some silly songs just for fun, From that on, it developed. I had a band at one point, which was fun. And then I took some time because I think things started to get serious at some point for me, and I started to maybe think that maybe there's something in this. Maybe I can actually write some music. And so I went on a journey that then led me to the warehouses in North London, and from there on, and through some people like my good friend James Haggerty, I met a whole world of people from the music scene, from festivals, and then some of the members of my band, I met them in music jams, and I guess it was meant to be, the law of attraction, I guess. I don't know. And then from there onwards, I started to believe more that something more could come of it, and so I went into it, and here we are today. We got our first album, which had to be put on hold because of the pandemic, but I think it's doing well, and I think people love it.
Well, that's a huge achievement because to put together a whole album is a lot of work.
Yes, yeah.
That is a lot of work. And it's interesting to hear that you didn't necessarily start out intending to write songs, but that gradually you got the encouragement, the inspiration, and then met the right people to put together a band and start making your own music.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've always loved music from when I was born, and I've always been an avid music listener, and I've always liked all kinds of music. I can appreciate musicality in most types of music in the world, and so I guess that curiosity led me to buy a lot of music. I was definitely somebody who was listening to the quirky things in songs, the things that some would deem as maybe mistakes or whatnot, when there's a voice that you didn't expect or a sound, the things that make us remember the song, the melodies, the catchiness, and little did I know that my ear was being trained for what was going to come later in life. But for sure, I was more of a music listener as opposed to an actual musician.
So given that you've listened to all kinds of music and always been someone who loves music, are there any artists or types of music that have been particularly inspiring for you?
Yeah, I would say there's lots of inspiration. I've been inspired by African music from Angola and the Congo. From Angola, for example, you have people like Bonga, who is possibly one of the biggest artists that Angola has ever produced, and Paulo Flores, another great artist, and Irmãos Almeida, brothers Almeida, bands like that. And then from Portugal, I would say people like Rui Veloso, and I would say Pedro Brunhosa and a few others. But then there was the world music, because my parents, they would listen to African music, French music, Italian music, Spanish, English, American, and so I really they really enriched my ear. And I would say, people like Prince, I would say, are an inspiration. And because I love to dance, I would say Michael Jackson was for sure when I was a kid. Mesmerizing to watch. And so, I've been inspired by things like that. I like bands like Radiohead, for instance. I do like my rock, my funk. The list goes on. There's so many artists that I think I haven't just been inspired by one artist.
That's amazing. So earlier in the show, I've played Baba Funk, which is like an instrumental.
Yes.
And then we played Heritage.
Amazing.
Yeah, so the listeners have heard those. I'm thinking of playing Lisboa next. Do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, sure. Lisboa was a song that I wrote after being for quite a long time in England, and then I started to reconnect with Lisbon and with people there, and so the song was a sort of an outcome of stories that happened in Lisbon, and there's a deeper layer beneath it also, but essentially it's about the people of Lisbon, the life in Lisbon, and how we celebrate Lisbon as a city. And there's a video that you can watch on YouTube also that's been released.
Brilliant. Here it is. Hi and welcome back. You are listening to The Variety Show with myself, Samantha, and this is Feferity Radio London. You can listen to Feferity Radio through our own app. You can also find my show later on YouTube. Please do put comments on the YouTube comments section, especially if you have feedback or if you have any suggestions on guests that you'd like to see interviewed or any topics that you'd like to see covered. So today I'm really excited to have a live studio guest, Amadis Ferreira from Amadis has his own band called Amadis and the Ambassadors. Came out with his first debut album, well, really, essentially during the lockdowns, right?
The album actually came out at the very end of 2019, and then I went to India, to Goa, to sort of get some warmth before we were meant to tour in 2020. So when I was there, COVID arrived, and so I decided to stay there because I thought it would be better for me. And so we had to sort of hold the promotion of the album until things calmed down, and that started now. Maybe I think it's been a year, almost a year or a year since I've come back, and then from that point we started to then promote the album because no one knew what was going to happen, and I guess nobody wouldn't have made sense to market the album at that time when everybody was worrying about being locked in and not being able to go out, and so we waited.
I think COVID put a lot of things on hold, didn't it?
Absolutely.
It was definitely a strange time because it was almost like some things just ended and everybody was thrown into a new challenging situation. So you were able to stay for the whole... Wait, did you stay in Goa the whole entirety?
I did. I stayed in Goa, and it was nice because the sun was out, and sure, there was a lockdown for a shorter period of time than there was here. Also because Goa is a sort of autonomous state, and I guess they had COVID under control there pretty well. I mean, where I was, only 2 people passed away that were already older during the whole time, and there was no... It wasn't bad. I have a very good memory. Well, at least from my own time, I don't have such a terrible memory of COVID, and there was an opportunity to also write more music, and do some collaborations that will be coming out in the near future. And it was a good time to practice play music with other people, and I even had a band out there that I put together. Amadis and the Goan Ambassadors.
So you stuck with the brand Ambassadors, but you just had like a new band in a new location.
I wouldn't call it a brand, but if you think about it, every musician is an ambassador, for the cause, of music, for the good vibe, the good energy. So it was actually my bass player who came up with the word ambassador, and when he said it, I was just like, that sounds really, really good. I like it because it represents all of us musicians. Doesn't really matter who you play with.
So you chose the name Ambassador because you're an ambassador for what music brings.
Absolutely.
Yes. So what is it that you would like your music to do for people?
What it did for me when I was younger made me feel good, made me feel alive. It gave me the comfort that I needed when I was sad or down. Sometimes music gives you advice in so many words. The words of others at times can give you an advice that they don't even know that they're giving you. And I think I try to write music that's personal, but that shares something that's good and happy, and maybe people will pick up different things and understand the songs in different ways. And I think that's how I would like it to be.
I think as somebody who loves music, but I personally know I'm not so much musically gifted in terms of writing songs or singing, but I really appreciate good music, and I would say that I'm very grateful to people who do write music and make music, because like he said, sometimes it is a song that really captures how you feel.
Yeah.
When I was like a young girl, teenager, early 20s, whenever I had a bit of heartbreak, I would just play Magic FM all night and cry. and feel a lot better by the end of it.
Yes.
And then
yes.
I wouldn't really listen to Magic unless it was for medicinal reasons.
Yeah,
Unless
Magic
it was for
FM.
therapeutic
Smooth
reasons.
FM.
Yes. You know, they just play the right kind of songs
Yeah, right.
for like a mellow, sad mood where
Yes.
it's lots of ballads and things like
Absolutely, we love the old ballads.
that. So are there any songs you particularly like that have songs perhaps that you always go back to or you play time and again, or there's something you really like about them?
Yeah, I think that I really like the song Freedom. It really makes me feel alive when I sing it, because I also sang it, or wrote it rather, or it grew out of this feeling of wanting to be free. We're free in a way, but there's many ways that you can be that you could not be free in your own mind, and it's a song that is for everyone, especially what's happening right now across the world: Venezuela, Yemen, Palestine, Iran. Everywhere you look, people are in search of freedom, looking for freedom, and so this song is about that. It's about the fight for the freedom that we should already have, actually, since we're born. But we seem to have to fight for the freedoms. For some of them, they're quite basic and very simple. But humanity.
Humanity, and its great variety and complexity.
You gotta love it.
Yes. So let's listen to that song. I've got it ready here. So this is Freedom by Amadis and the Ambassadors.
That mask off, we're gonna ride. What about love? When you're afraid and courage ain't enough, can't stop now. Oh, what a journey. Oh, take me higher, higher, higher. Would you believe, yeah, would you believe in yourself?
And that was Amadis and the Ambassadors' Less Time. You are
Freedom.
listening. What?
That was Freedom.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
But I'm
sorry.
glad that you mentioned Less Time, because that's my other favorite. I might even say it's possibly my favorite song of the album, but I would think between all of them, Freedom and Less Time are definitely the top two for me. Obviously, I like all the songs, but I have a lot of time for Less Time.
You have a lot of time for less time. Well, we're going to make sure we have time to play it. Because I'm kind of like, I've got a little bit of a playlist, but I'll make sure Less Time is included.
Yeah, no problem.
So we make sure that plays as well. I would recommend, so anyone who's just joining, you're listening to Feferity Radio London, your nostalgic station. This is the variety show with Samantha every Friday afternoon. Today I'm here until 6. Next week I'll be on my earlier Friday shift, which will be 2 to 4 p.m. And I will be back with another guest and more great music. However, today in the studio, I have a live studio guest, Amadis, who has his own band, Amadis and the Ambassadors, and who brought out an album quite recently. I would recommend that you look up Amadis and the Ambassadors and you check out the album artwork. Now, that's quite an impressive image you've got as the front cover. Do you want to tell me a bit about how that came about?
Yeah, actually, I was in Portugal, and I had been to a festival, and I went to visit my friend Jody, who lives up in the mountains in the north of Portugal. And when I got there, he was there with his partner, and it was the first time that I'd met her, and she was helping him to decorate his house. And then I saw paintings that she was, making, and the cover of the album is one of her paintings, Clover. And when I saw the painting, it just took me. I sort of looked at it, and it took me into a journey. And then I said to her, "This is beautiful," and I thought about it for a while, and I said to her, I might record an album one day, or I will, and I would love for this to be the cover of the album. And she said, "Well, when you're ready, you give me a call, and we'll make that happen." 2 years later, I called her, and I said, "Look, I've made the album, and I'm ready for your painting to be the album cover." And so it was arranged, and there it is.
That's amazing. So you found the album cover before the album was even... Had you even started recording it yet?
No, I hadn't. But, at some point when you write any number of songs, the next step, I guess, is to sort of put them down, record them, and put it into vinyl, hopefully, which we did. And so we've got the album 1979, Dig Deeper, on vinyl. And I knew that I was going to record an album. I didn't know when. I didn't know exactly how. I knew that I had the band and songs that I thought were good, and so and when I saw that, I was just like, wow, if I do record this album, I would love for that to be the cover. It spoke to me. And I've even had people that have bought the album from a vinyl shop in different places, and have messaged me on Instagram and saying, I saw your album, I saw the cover, I hadn't even heard the music, and I bought the album because of the cover, and then I put the vinyl on when I got home, and I was not disappointed. So it's nice when people say that, and it's funny how you can just buy an album just by looking at the cover, and maybe that cover gives people a good vibe,
Well, I'd say so, because I was really impressed when I saw the album artwork. Because I think that's quite an important part of it. Like you said, it makes people buy the album. That's quite impressive. And because the name of your album is 1979 Dig Deeper, having a brightly coloured, kind of a psychedelic vibe of the artwork, it's quite fitting. It kind of comes together as quite a stylish whole, I would say.
Thank you. Yes, for sure, and it definitely helps to put the album out there, and I've got Clover to thank for. And for those who haven't seen it,
yes, you can show it. You can show it for the YouTube.
This is the album right here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is on, in the frame of the camera, but there it is.
Yeah, no, we adjusted the camera accordingly.
And then we've also got part of that image on the actual, in the middle of the vinyl as well, and on the other side you have the names of the songs, but it's cool. And a cheeky picture of me in the back. But yeah, that's it. 1979, Dig Deeper by Amadis and the Ambassadors. Also to be found on Spotify and all the other digital music sites.
Yes. If you look at the screen now, you can see. You can see yourself on camera.
And there you are, yes.
So one of the things that fascinates me about, because the story is that I've known Amadis actually a long time, and we met very soon after I came to London. Those early memories of you always having your guitar with you. No big surprise really that music has become your life. It's probably better to say that it's your life than your career, right?
Absolutely, yeah, very much so.
It's more your life and your lifestyle.
Yes, it's very difficult for some people to accept that, because I guess we live in a very material world, and you know, and when you're pursuing music, you have to go through a certain journey. That also means that that you're not sort of earning money as a 9-to-5 job person, which I was, and so a lot of people are like, well, why are you making music if it's not giving you enough that you can buy all of these things? But maybe we don't need all of these things. Maybe we just need some things, and simplify life, and that's what I did actually. And I think there's a freedom in that, and I certainly found a contentment in that, you know. And music gives me a lot more than any money that I've ever earned.
So you're choosing to do something you love, rather than something out of a sense of duty or because of others' expectations.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I haven't done that. You know, we all go through that. We are all human. We all learn slowly. We are all affected by the same things, or in different ways, surely. But I think if you pursue your heart and your truth, you will find the thing that you love, whether it's medicine, music. It's all important, because we all are like part of a big garden, and in a garden or in a forest, you have all of the different trees and bushes and flowers that all play their part. So, you know, I guess mine is just music.
Yeah, and I feel strongly that we have certain gifts. We're born with certain. We're basically born with everything we need, and part of that is that we will have certain gifts, abilities, talents. We'll be drawn to certain things. So for you, it's music. For myself, it tends to be words. I'm writing a book. I like to write. I do it as part of my job.
Awesome.
I just quite like words.
Didn't know that. Great.
So
You're writing the book. Is it your first book?
Yes, it's my first
Awesome.
book.
Can't wait.
I'm now on a real focused. The next few weeks, I'm going to really focus on finishing it. I want it finished by the end of this year, because I have plans for another book, which I want to start next year.
That's how it starts. You better find your cover.
That's true. I haven't yet got a cover. I've done my project the opposite way round to your album. You found that beautiful, inspiring piece of artwork. That is one of the best album covers I've seen, I have to say, Amadis. Like, congratulations. I think you just that's going to be a vinyl album to just. You need to have it framed. Have you got it framed somewhere?
Actually, my friend who did the painting, she sent me, Clover sent me the digital image of it, and also a copy of the original in a beautiful canvas. So it looks like it's the original, but I would say is the second copy. There's only 2 copies. But yes, I do have that somewhere, and I believe that it's in my home in the north of Portugal right now, and I say that because I've been moving a lot and traveling a lot recently. So I think it's there, and I haven't framed it yet, but I'm going to frame it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do travel a lot. What makes you travel?
You know, since the beginning of time, we have traveled. And the animals travel, and I think part of that is we all need it as human beings. We were and still are nomads in a way in many parts of the world. There's many tribes, and I think traveling is an education. It's an opening to the world. It's opening your eyes to how people do different things. And when you travel, you see many beautiful and different things, and you learn. But you also see many of the same things: love that people have, bread. Everybody loves bread. Everybody loves cheese. Everybody loves to be cozy and warm. Everybody loves to have their coffee, and we share in the entire world all these similarities. And then we hopefully take and embrace the other beautiful things that other cultures have, because we are only one human race after all. This is why I don't believe in racism, because to be racist, you'd have to be racist against another race. But we are only one human race. So let's go out there and learn about each other's cultures, because I think it's a beautiful thing, and it gives you a different perspective, a different focus, more more of a zest for life, I would even say. And you build beautiful friendships. And in terms of music, you can enrich yourself not only through music but through art and food and so many things. But for me personally, going to other countries, traveling, meeting other musicians, it really opened up my mind to different ways of making music, different scales, different ways to write music and appreciate it, and play together with somebody from another country. You may not speak the language, but it's like football, everybody speaks football, and everybody speaks music.
That's so interesting. So for you, what I like about what you said is that you see the similarities between people everywhere. You don't focus on the difference, but you focus on the fact that we're actually all one. We're all human.
Yes.
And there is, in your mind, there is not this thing called race. And I would agree. I think that's man-made. I don't think that's meant to be there, because genetically we are all related to each other. And the differences that are used to categorize race are very, very superficial differences.
Yes.
And as much as there are different languages, different cultures, like you said, there's some basic things that are the same in every single one. There's certain things that are the same and never change.
That's it. So I think the thing to do to unify us all, to make the one world tribe, to make a true united countries or nations or whatever you want to call it, that there has to be more, because people have to be really together. Like, for example, I was watching the World Cup recently, and when Japan plays, the Japanese fans help to clean the stadium at the end of the game. Now you might think, good for them, but it's really interesting, isn't it, that you can learn different things from different people. And I guess I've never been to Japan, but I would love to go, and I'd love to play there. But when people work together, even though you are different, you can achieve great things. And I think that the world is yet to see the best of the best, because I don't believe that we haven't seen the best of people and the best of music, or the best of art. I think that when the world is truly free and there's no conflict anywhere, and people truly are able to get a more comprehensive education than what they do today, then the veil of that blocks people from being more will be lifted, and the world will truly go through a new age with new pyramids coming. I'm gonna reactivate.
Wow. So I'm kind of getting the vibe that there's a whole philosophy behind your approach to life and your thinking.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, I asked you to, and we will come back to some of that. We'll just have a song in between. And the next track is one that you've chosen. So this is now not from the album, although we're going to come back and listen to another song from the album. Now, this is a song called Planets. Do you want to just tell us briefly why you chose it?
I chose it because my very, very good friend and brother, more of a brother really, Jack Towson Charles, he's just released his new album recently, And I had the pleasure to be at the album launch and also play at the album launch. And I also feature on this song, actually, not in vocals, but I added some guitar, which has got some effects. And I was there in the studio when he was working with Danny Kane. And I think it's a great song. So I think people should hear it.
Brilliant. So I'm going to play Planets by Jack Tyson Charles for you, as chosen by Amadis.
In a visual scripture, hey, we ride our own destiny, and we paint a picture, hey, of a world that's fantasy. Can you feel the emotion, hey, as your world comes crashing down? All you need is devotion when you're asking to be found. Lights are moving, hey, blowing like jet planes, and the energy's burning now as we move on to better things. Can you feel the attraction now of no pain or regret? Piece of the action now, hey, but we ain't seen nothing yet.
So you've been listening to Feferity Radio London, and that was Planets by Jack Tyson Charles, chosen by Amadis, who's my studio guest today. I have to say, this song made me think of Massive Attack. And this is going back a few years, but I was really big time into Massive Attack.
Yeah, great.
And
great
I
band.
had the well, it was CDs. I was never really a vinyl girl, so it would have been CDs
Absolutely.
that I had and treasured and played. But that song definitely, it had like that kind of quite slow beat, quite slow tempo that has also nevertheless has quite a lot under the surface, a lot of build up.
Lo-fi.
And that's lo-fi, and that's kind of that's why it made me think of Massive Attack.
Absolutely. Lo-fi soul.
And you contributed to that track.
I contributed, yes. I was in the studio and I didn't know that I was going to do that. At least in my memory right now, but it just happened. It was very spontaneous, and we tried different things with, to sort of add to the music. It was beautiful to be invited to go up there and just chill, because you know how it is when you are in a studio and you record, you want some of your crew, as it were, your tribe around you, to make you feel good, to help you to create the vibe that you create when you're doing it live. Because obviously when you're recording in a studio, it's not the same like being in front of a crowd, but you want to hopefully recreate that vibe so that when you hear it, you can hear the ring of truth behind the music.
So that's that would be your tip for recording. Make sure you've got some musicians, some people that you really would play live with there.
That they make you feel good. That when you see them, they make you feel happy. They make you feel like you want to, do the best of whatever it is that you do. Surround yourself with people like that are gonna strengthen you, help you to grow.
That sounds good. Now, I know a number of people who are relatively new artists and just starting to make music and put it out there. Do you have any advice for them? Because you've been performing a long time now.
Well, yes. I would say to them, in terms of performance, you just have to practice. You get good at things because you repeat them. And humans are good at doing that. We repeat things, and so and if you love what you do, no one has to tell you to do that, but you do have to, sort of, I would say, between applying some kind of time to practice, and also don't forget to jam and just to be free to create and just enjoy the music in the moment at the same time. Have a bit of routine, but just like, and I would say if you keep doing that, you focus, and if you always do it in truth, you will attract the right vibe, and the right people will come along the way that will help you to make the melody that is in you be heard by others in a more beautiful way. Because we can do things by ourselves, but when we do them together, there's no telling of what we can do.
Would you say you're part of a community?
Many communities, yes, for sure.
I just get that feeling from the way you speak, because there's obviously a lot of people that you know and love and respect as musicians or artists.
Absolutely.
And that you're very excited to collaborate with them, to connect with them, to jam with them.
Indeed. It's there's communities everywhere, and if you look around, you will find them in whatever it is that you want to do. And I have communities, in India that I know, or that I'm a part of, rather, in Portugal, here, in some other parts of Europe, and then there are other communities that I know of that I would like to visit in other parts of the world as well. But once you start to to sort of get to know these people, and you have common interests, and you start to share your art, and we promote each other and help each other, then you really are you have a really good support base, and I believe that you can achieve anything that you want to do. You can find your success, whether you see money as success or making an album as success. That's a different story. It depends what you want, but you'll for sure be able to succeed in what you do.
Depends on a person's value system, right?
Absolutely.
For some people, they'll measure success in financial terms, or in terms of how many people are streaming or listening or coming to concerts and gigs. And for others, like you said, it can be more about the sense of achievement, of getting your music recorded and a whole album of it and putting it out there.
Exactly.
So I think it depends a little bit on what your goals are as well, and what you regard as a measure of success. That's definitely part of it. I think another thing that I wanted to touch on a little bit is you have mixed heritage, don't you? So
yes.
You have the Portuguese
and Angolan.
And the beauty of London is there's lots of people here that have that. They have a variety of cultures. I've got my Finnish side and the British.
Yes, exactly.
maybe less exotic mix that I have, but nevertheless two very different cultures.
It's exotic if you're from Africa.
That's true. It's just exotic in a different way. Exotic in a sort of Antarctic way.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you say it's partly because you have that, and then having grown up in London, is that one reason, do you think, why you're very open to different cultures and open to traveling and exploring?
I think that anyone or most people, I would maybe speak for them too, that come from two cultures of this one human race, I think that you learn a lot about either side of that, and I think that also opens you up to maybe be more curious about cultures beyond that, the ones that you didn't necessarily grow up with. But here in London, we're privileged because actually, we have so many people here from all over that actually, it's very easy to even learn the basic words of the different communities.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there are artists from all these communities, musicians from all these communities. So, I would say in London for sure we have one of the best, I guess, places to be for music, for art, because there's people here from everywhere. And I would say that for sure helped, because if you're in a place that is conducive to what you love, even though you don't know that maybe you're going to go into it, then you just get attracted by it. You just like it's like gold, and you just follow it. It's like, I'm not sure why I'm following it, and then suddenly you're like, okay, this is what I wanted to do after all.
I guess a feeling listening to you that a lot of the things that you've ended up doing have been just that you've ended up sort of following something that interests you, that you feel strongly about, that you feel passionate about, just kind of following the music. Would that be correct, that you've kind of just been following the music wherever it takes you and whoever it's connecting you with, and then that path has taken you to being more of a songwriter yourself and
Yes.
and making music rather than just loving music and playing other people's music, but making your own?
Absolutely, I would say that just playing music led me to places that I would never have planned to go, meet the people that I never imagined that I would meet, and then the love of it and learning from these people and carrying on then took me to other places. This year we played at BST Hyde Park, British Summertime Festival. That was nice. And we also played at Metaverse, which is a festival, a 4-day festival in a virtual world online called Decentraland. So I never imagined that I would be playing in a virtual world. So there you go. So I've always been just walking along the path, as it were, and then, that looks interesting,
But I guess you have to have a certain openness to go for new things, and a certain openness to attract new things as well.
Absolutely. I think that's the most important thing, if you're open and you take your time to just listen and let people share their story, even though they may be from a place completely different to you. I think that that can happen, and it can be true.
That's really I'm getting a really quite a clear picture, because there's been such a long gap that I haven't seen you, but it's really been exciting to meet up with you again now that you happen to be in London, because that's not a given. I've realised that you're quite often travelling off somewhere. Travelling. Does something always bring you back here?
Yes, a bit of everything: the art, the music. I have family here, and I spent quite a long time in London, so I've got an extended family through my musical family and other friends, artists and non-artists alike. And I think London has always been, and hopefully will always be, a very special place for me.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
I'd say so. London does attract a lot of very gifted people and a lot of very talented people.
Yes.
There's pros and cons to that. I'd say there's more pros than anything else,
I would say
because
so.
yes, because you can meet like-minded people. There's opportunities here. Okay, there might be quite a few people competing sometimes for those opportunities,
Yes.
but there's also a lot of different opportunities. There's a lot going on.
Absolutely. To be a Londoner is quite an experience, and I'm certainly a Londoner.
Is that how you introduce yourself when you go to these exotic new locations?
Not really, no, not at all, not at all. But I just say that because sometimes you feel part of somewhere. Like when I went to India, I really feel at home when I go to Goa. I feel at home when I'm in London. So I'm definitely Goan, and I'm a Londoner, and I'm African and Angolan and Portuguese, and maybe a bit of San Francisco is in me as well, and New York, and some other places. The list goes on.
And when I was because I trained as a counsellor at one point,
All
and I
right.
ran a private counselling practice for a number of years.
Really? I had no
Yes.
idea. You never told me that.
I did
Okay.
that for a number of years, and I only really wound it up this year when other work started to come in, and I started to return to more working with PR promotion, and then more and more music and artists.
Because you're
So-
gifted. Writing books, hosting radio shows, counseling people. See, we're on the same path.
Well, I think the counselling was a valuable thing for me to do. I found it really interesting work. I'm happy to now do other things, but I'm really grateful I took that time out. And one of these theories that I came across was that there is like a true self that we all have, and then how do we explain, for example, what you've just said, which is there's like a part of you that fits in and feels at home in Goa. There's a part of you that's the Londoner. There's the part of you that is the Portuguese, and there's the part of you that's Angolan, that's very African. And the explanation that I really liked was that you have configurations of yourself. So you have different configurations. It's still you. So you're still essentially always you.
Like
You're
a phone,
essentially
and these
always
are the
Amadis.
apps that are being added
Yeah.
to the phone.
Yeah, these are exactly. So you
The
could look at it
chameleon.
as different apps. You could look at it as, if you look at it in music terms, you could look at it as a slightly different output, maybe. But it's essentially still you. But you maybe bring out certain parts of you more to suit that environment, or you can maybe fulfill certain parts of yourself more in a certain environment, in a certain setting than another.
Yeah, or you could see them as skills that you attain in different ways, and then you use the tools and the skills when you need to and how you need to, which is to me quite normal actually. And this is why we go to school, right? To learn all these subjects.
Definitely. And there's always learning, isn't there, when you're around new people
Yeah,
and new culture.
absolutely.
So I think it's time to play another song of yours.
All right.
We're going to play the song that you mentioned is your favorite on the album.
For sure.
So would you like to introduce this song for us?
Yeah, Less Time. Less Time was written to remind myself and everyone else, the world, that about the time that we have here, and the time that we have with ourselves, with others, to appreciate this time and to travel.
Yes. So don't waste time. Make the most of it.
Yeah.
What would you say if I took your love? What would you do if I let you in? Where would we journey to if we could travel all across the galaxies infinitely? There was a time we used to know just how vast this space is. This quantum age has made us know you cannot quantify your feelings. This frequency is louder than the resonance is healing. Don't waste your time looking for the motherland, 'cause the planet is bleeding. What would you say if I took your love? What would you do if I let you in? Where would we journey to if we could travel all across the galaxies infinitely? Where would we journey to if we could travel? Where would we journey to if we could travel? Where would we journey to if we could travel? Where would we journey to if we could
So that was Less Time from Amadis and the Ambassadors and the album called 1979.
Dig deeper.
Dig Deeper. Dig Deeper. That's it. That's it. So you're listening to Feferity Radio London. My name is Samantha and this is the Variety Show. a weekly show on Friday afternoons where I interview some super interesting individuals, mainly artists and creatives, although I've had some coaches and people like that on here as well, given that I've got some interest in psychology as well. And today we've been listening to some beautiful music that Amadis has made with his band and recorded for the pleasure of everyone. He is playing regularly with the band, and I think one of the most interesting things you did recently was this Metaverse Festival that's virtual.
Yes, the Metaverse Festival. It's interesting because you're recording a live performance that's going to be then broadcast as a live performance in a virtual world, which is really so I was actually on there as an avatar watching the show myself. So it's pre-recorded because I don't think the technology yet is there for everyone, from anywhere in the world, or maybe it's there, but maybe there isn't the right setup to have a fully live, festival online. And I think that as humans go and things that are late, it'll probably be chaotic. But yeah, that was very, very interesting to play there. And it was quite different to be a part of a different history of humanity in which we are now creating worlds online, virtual worlds, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And we didn't think that the internet was going to go anywhere. At least some people back in the day, journalists, wrote in the paper they thought that the internet would never become anything, and now look at what it's become. So it could very well be that we will soon be having radio interviews in the virtual world online with our own avatars.
That's true. So make the most of it. You can still see us on YouTube, and it's the real deal. So it's actually myself and Amadis here in the studio.
In the flesh.
I'm going to just wave at the camera while I say that. So next time round, it could be an avatar, There would be advantages to the avatar thing.
Right? Imagine you could literally fly in. You'd be like, you just fly into hi, welcome.
And I would never need to brush my hair again. I could just live in jogging bottoms,
right?
like I did during the pandemic.
Right, there you go.
Pre-pandemic, you would never have caught me wearing joggers. Post-pandemic, it's hard to get me out of them.
How things change.
Life has changed, and now festivals are virtually online as well. But that's exciting that because you come across as somebody who lives very kind of earthy, natural, quite kind of rustic. I would say that's kind of the vibe you have. But it's interesting that with your music and stuff like that, you're actually doing something super high tech and really forward thinking. So I love that. I love that almost like a juxtaposition.
Yeah, I think as humans we have to be adaptability, because the body is adaptable, so is nature. But yeah, we should definitely embrace more.
And the other thing I wanted to just finally ask is, what next music-wise? What are your plans?
Right now I am working on the next album of the Ambassadors. I hope that we can get to recording it next year, maybe in spring. It may not happen, it may, I'm not sure yet. And sort of in longer term, I would also like to do my first solo album, perhaps start with an acoustic album, because I actually come from playing acoustic guitar by myself, singer-songwriter. That was how I started this journey, and I really used to love, and still do, to just sit on my own and play, music that's a bit more grounded, let's say, a bit more, I wouldn't say folky, but certainly more acoustic. And so that's what I'd like to accomplish in the very near future, and obviously play all over Europe, and hopefully go and play in Asia, South America.
So touring and recording a new album, possibly an acoustic one. Wow, that sounds really exciting. Thank you so much for coming into the studio today. I really appreciate it,
Thank you.
because it's not always that people take out the time to do that, but I really appreciate it. So a big thank you. And, you know, I can really recommend that you look up Amadis and the Ambassadors and check out the album, and make sure you also, depending on the platform you use, maybe follow or create a playlist with some of his music, and just keep tabs on what he's up to and what he's doing next.
For sure. And I'll send you soon an exclusive song for you to play here. I don't have it on me today, but I'll send you an unreleased track, and maybe as a thank you to you and to the listeners and to Feferity Radio.
Yeah, freestyles, baby.
Yeah.
Feferity Radio. Well, you know what? That's music to my ears as someone who does a radio show. If somebody is offering me unreleased exclusive material to play, that's very exciting, because,
Aye.
you know, I can just really, really share that with everyone. So just to finish off, there's a beautiful song called Legacy by a lady called Becca Folks, who's got a very beautiful voice. And there's just, I think you're building a legacy, Amadis, and
Trying.
this song kind of came into my mind.
All right.
Legacy, born with a legacy. Yeah, the scarred fragments of my history. Called to be a king and a priest, but my enemies won't let me be. What else can I do to remember you? Would you give me strength, give me grace? What else can I do to remember you? Would you give me strength, give me grace? Still I rise from the ashes, but am I really strong enough? Still I rise from the ashes, but am I really that strong enough? Hereditary, pain is hereditary. Ships that carry my ancestry. From defeat we were born, now it's up to us. Legacy, born with a legacy. What else can I do to remember you? Would you give me strength, give me grace?